For the last of, frankly, the last of the monuments of the season, 245. Well, we're back to the lakes, not to Lecco, but the other leg of Lake.
Ladies and gentlemen, give them a warm send-off now as they get solo questo ragazzo per oggi. Eccolo qua, lui in salita ne sa un bel po'. I don't know, I'm the final member of the team as they look to their numbers. E gli ultimi atleti, il campione nazionale da rete, Christian Sorensen, e poi...
Dan Martin, okay, you're coming back from a separated shoulder. A good Milano-Torino, how are you for in Lombardia?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. I mean, that's the main thing, but yeah, but that's really a surprise me. I mean, I was a lot better than I thought I was going to be, so yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's a really hard race, it's a really hard race, so yeah, but that's really
So
one thing.
this is going to be a slow race.
I'm here to enjoy the day. I'm on my back.
Still a little bit tired from my race I just finished about half an hour ago. Thereabouts.
Yeah, normally it's a perfect course for me, so yeah, I'm just like kind of tired and I don't think anything's going to really be there so yeah,
Let's see what we can do anyway.
Vincenzo, sei il favorito, questo non c'è dubbio.
Well, he's starting off as favourite. He said, yeah, favourite's one thing, but doing the job is another. But, you know, we're all feeling good. We're in good shape. And, of course, it's the end of the season. But, of course, it's very difficult. And you've got to be very, very focused. But it's an insidious final, he says. But there's a lot of very, very strong riders out there, and it's a difficult course.
Final 60 kilometers are different this year. Can you do well on this course?
Yeah, they are very hard. It's like up and down always from 60k to go to the finish, and very bright hard climb passes. So we have to be like in front, but also very strong.
Rarely are there so many favourites for Lombardia. What do? Do you wait? Do you ride your own race? Do you look about there? Anybody has to go from a long way out. Lots of options.
Yeah, it's a lot of options, but you know, at the end of the season, the work to ranking is also playing a big role. The individual one and the team ones. So it's like sometimes you see guys chasing the order or team chasing other teams, and then you just understand the reason the day after when you see the newspapers, you know.
Starts at the top of the day. All looks very, very serious, not overly chatty, let's put it that way at the beginning. It is a long distance. It's also punishing climate this time of year in Italy. It gets very, very wet, and of course you can get extraordinarily chilled. It was a cold start, around about 14 to 16 Celsius. It's warmed up just a little bit, particularly towards the end of today's race where our commentary position sits. But it wasn't long before things got very, very lively at the top of the day. Reaching out for glory is what you have to do, especially if, of course, you are hoping to be something of a surprise by the time that the day is done. And it wasn't long before we drew a response as we headed out of Bergamo. And in fact, it was to get really quite busy.
So I'm still needs a fast start.
Showing a great interest in the Romanian team. In fact, that pairing did manage to get themselves into a break. There was a tunnel on Giorno Bardiani and down to Gineppo and Kyle Simon. On the free leg for as well. United Healthcare got him out of the first one, which was supposed to be the lower. To get himself up and running. He did so. How deep we'll get into the day is anyone's guess. We believe Simon Gerrans was actually caught up in this crash earlier on. He's possibly been gone with ill fortune, unfortunately. So yes, the question just getting back on, getting back in where we need to be, which is as far to the front as you can possibly do. So, not a great start for many up there, but finally back on the bike was indeed Simon Gerrans to the side. Yet again, he must be working on the other side to do it. Anyway, there is a breakaway. It's 11 riders who are up the road and heading for inexorably Coma. Very joining our pictures live right now. We still have our breakaway up the road. Some bumps and bruises for many. Down a rough start to today for Simon Gerrans, one of those who many would have thought had a great chance today.
Yeah, it's like one of those years that's going to want to get as quickly as he possibly can. 6th place at the World Championships 1 week ago. Pretty good performance given how the rest of the season has been. It's just been one long year of getting injuries, trying to come back, trying to focus. It's dead once again. That's going to be what's happened to him again today. He is up and running back in the peloton, but such work done his
Yeah, that's not strong enough.
We're hooking up to Lake Carmel. We saw a beautiful picture there. Heading to Bellagio, absolutely glorious.
They're still recovering
The promontory
from
of
my
Bellagio
aliens.
is a writer's sanctuary, and as our cameras look back towards it, the little mound there, you see a great big palace. The next chance, by invitation, you can actually go there. If you are a writer of note, and spend some time in your little cloistered environment. They'll look after all the expenses. Malcolm Bradbury actually went there once. His wife apparently put on about 11 pounds in weight over the 3 or 4 weeks that they were there, because frankly the food is just so spectacular, and so are the views in this part of the world, Bellagio. As you look back, or indeed across to Verona, where the villas of the great and the good, and indeed some notorious are there, we won't name them, but across the way, George Clooney as well has himself a little pad in this part of the world. I understand it's up for sale. Dan Lloyd, so far, hasn't admitted to being tempted, but we'll see how he goes today. 82.4 kilometres to go then, Dan. 245. It's kind of a rude distance at the end of what's been a very busy season for these riders. There will be plenty of fatigue left over back from the Worlds, won't there?
Yeah, mental and physical fatigue really are all parts of the racing at this time of the season. Everyone at the very beginning extremely motivated, lots of bits of physical energy in their bodies to use. At this point in the season, it does often just come down to who has got the biggest morale, the most motivation to try and do something. It's still a huge race, one of the 5 monuments to talk about in terms of one-day
Let's
racing.
see.
Starting off with Milan San Remo back in March, then going on to the Tour of Flanders.
Can do under 6 tonight.
Liège, Bastogne-Liège, finishing with Cyril Lombardie as it's called now. You know, there are a lot of riders who are very up for this indeed. Taylor Deagley, for one, already mentioned the time we saw interviewing at the start of our programme. This season has not been a good one for the Italian national champion, despite spending many Italian championships back in June. He certainly hasn't performed as he would have expected and liked at the Grand Tours. Of course, being ousted from the World as well, falling into a team car basically just rock salt the roof. So he's been performing pretty well recently at the Italian one-day races leading up to this grand finale. He's the big favourite really today, which is why his team starter are riding.
Here's your breakaway then, one of our super slow-mo shots. Dennis van Vicken is up here. Good time trial is in fact a solid Parkinson time trial at the corner to the bottom of the black. We also have Marco Canola from United Healthcare. He was one of those that started the break. There he is in the blue and white. And in fact, we're with the breakaway 5 right now. It's just come down lakeside, heading towards Bellagio, as we mentioned earlier. Simon Geske of Giant Alpha Sin has carried his beard all the way up to the breakaway. CCC Stradic-Olkovici are also represented in this breakaway. Lamprey and Merida are here, as you can see. That is Jan Furlan. Cesario Garagetti is here for Cora, Aragon 18. Darwin is in the house for Barcelona. As well as Jerome Campbell, which is interesting, who are third in the time trial of the World Championship. And time trial is a great ability, especially at moments such as this, and especially if there's a lack of certainty in the pursuit. You can't be let off the leash, to be honest. Since this football in his career, from situations such as this. Oscar Gatto as well, the turbulent Italian is also in the break at the time. He started very much good last year. Stefan Schumacher is the Stradic-Olkovici rider who has had a cloud over him in his career, as I'm sure you well know. The veteran now is the German, but he's almost reinvented himself, I think. And it's kind of an open book around it. So I think you can be grateful and maybe just offer perhaps a modicum of forgiveness and not, of course, forgetfulness as to where today we're really back to the aforementioned Thursday, didn't it? Hallstater was there from South-East and lost for silver away. Obviously, not called Steve, but basically it's called. And that's your 11 riders off the road, and it's a kind of lunch now.
Yeah, there's certainly no slouch in the riders who make that 11-man breakaway. The maximum gap which they've got is a little under 9 minutes. That was some time ago. Now down to the 6-minute mark roughly. And I think it's down very quickly indeed now because the riders with nodes on accompanied the breakaway are approaching the crunch time of today. Back to the last 7 or so. Starting off with the Madonna del Casale, which is the most famous ride during this race. After that, we've got the Euro, which I described a little bit earlier. Much more detail as to what it's line over the last 2 months. Extremely steep, but coming as well with the Corintho top. The race had 2 of these actually really big favourites today. Then we've got 2 more guys, the last 21 kilometres, and that's where we are to see the big guns really going.
Ooh.
Gone off, and it's interesting to see who's busy chasing on. And Gilbert looked extraordinarily promising there a few moments ago, and he's actually trying to chase down the Ethics Quickstep boys. We said down at when a monument such as this comes at the end of the season, which carries such a lot of prestige, you naturally draw some very, very big names. That is a huge part of it. Those who manage to stay sane to the split, I guess that's the place to see. Perhaps maddest of all, at least in terms of anger, which generally tends to be able to direct into a purposeful push, particularly at very many times, which are illegally. A green, of course, to have been thrown off the Bugatti, which is a chance for him to very much retrieve what for him was sort of a pregnancy. But who you can see with Gilbert and some of Gilbert's cohorts, Vincenzo Nibali with the Italian champions stripes across his back, will be very keen that this doesn't go within his grasp as well. We would have to go long if it's going to take it today. Not able to, I would have thought, duke it out with the sprinters if it does come to the end. So, but this is not falling into his back at all, having very strong again and pushing on with something through him.
Yeah, in some ways I agree with you. In other ways I think he will hope for a hard race today. If it's too easy, it's more likely that people will be able to follow his attack on the last climb. So the fact that his Quickstep has pushed on and put the teams behind on the back foot, they're having to go slightly harder than perhaps they would have done if they were only chasing the original breakaway group. And you can see the group has whittled down somewhat already as they reach the peak of this starting on the front. See in third place is the Spanish champion Valverde, the favourites for the race today. On his wheel, the Formula 1 champion Rui Costa. Then it looks like Philippe Gilbert just behind that. Prize right is the right across the NL Young Boys. So all of the big name riders coming up.
Time to attack.
Some of them 17 points in that group. Very slightly. But it's only the gap to the original breakaway now down to just 2.5 minutes. It's really has come a lot over the last 20 or 30 kilometres. You might wonder why Ethics Quickstep have gone quite so soon. The fact is that even if they do get caught in position, they're leading right in the velocity. And maybe instead it's Steve Barr as well. I'm sure it doesn't work for the day. Even if they do get caught, that they won't. Yeah, people they might have to go into the race one time just to have a line. Which is not. So it could be having to say next
It fascinates some sound issues playing on site. The box as well as the headphones.
Okay, so I'm not going to get very far the moment
Everyone's looking for
by time to attack.
and it looks like we've got
So I'm going to use the benefits
Yeah, that looks like it's
of the draft in the slipstream.
just on his wheel. We've also seen Jerome Compel, who you mentioned earlier, which is third of the World Time Trial Championships on his own, I believe.
And tried to recover.
Might be somewhere in between. But it is
as much as possible.
They would have heard on their race radios that things are heating up behind. They have to really get a move on. They want to try and stay in front of
You need to pay attention to the left-hand side panel, left-hand side rider panel. Especially if I get caught to the back of the group. Well, it should tell me if anybody faces a hidden attack.
Sub-monitors whether the chase has been fully engaged for the time being. What it's done though, as far as breakaway is concerned, the picture you're looking at right now, means that our friends in the break have decided that this is too big of a alliance to continue. And in fact, they are sprightly as dolphins. In fact, it's Manola who are up to United Health again. 26 years of age.
It looks like we've got 82 or 62 riders.
This day might well be a long range. Yeah, it's not the difficult one for these guys really now that
Okay, so you've got the group to sort of nearly found the meter behind us. And then we need to catch on to it's just over 100 metres ahead. So I think that if we push things a little bit, we should be able to catch the group ahead. But everybody needs to work. Now, no doubt sometime during the shot, my screen will pause as usual. And this group will end up like 30 or 40 metres ahead within a few seconds. So I need to stay near the front and keep pushing as long as possible. But the moment I pause, so the screen just stops, then I've lost all these places that I'm with at the moment. Okay, do you want to be at the front? Drop back. Get the draft again. If you notice top centre of the screen, you can see how much power I am saving. Ease off a little bit. Drop back on the cassette. 52.23 at the moment. 4 people ahead. You need to get back in the group. Dominic's here taking the lead tonight.
The set race is part of their career. And in fact, Sky, I think, missed out big time on Simon because they only wanted one. I believe they only wanted. I think that was it. Yeah. Simon was part of the British Academy. That's right. Went over to France to race with a team at CCF2. And as a result, two very different characters have kind of emerged.
Sharp climb, so we're going to drop back in a second to 25.
Simon is a bit smoother.
There we go, 25.
They are identical twins, and so as a result, they are, of course, they share exactly the same genetics, which shows you it's nurture as well as nature. And the pair of them, of course, well, the Aussies have got a Orica Guido, for those of you listening down under. Yeah, you've bagged a real fantastic pair of prospects that, of course, are already delivering, which is great.
Back to 23.
And fantastic for what is a fantastic team as well, Orica Greenedge. They
Cover
really
for a
have,
few seconds.
they are a young team.
Start again.
They are also, of course, now very much part of our consciousness because they've had such a level of success.
Down to 21.
Right now, time for boxing as well, I think, right? So as we start to head up towards, or at least our breakaway, there's Sormano, the Muro, the wall, and it gets very rude very early.
Yeah, just on the lowest slopes of the...
We've got lots of short shot climbs now, but enjoy some.
4.5 kilometres time, so just to remind you, this first section of the Sormano, 5.1 kilometres,
so,
average grade of 6.6%.
after the start of the race,
things get tricky.
we're coming up shortly.
15.8% final 1.9.
It's going to be the biggest short climb.
There's a situation on the road then, on the Swedish frontier. Our leaders just about to be caught by a trio.
We've got down now to the
guys shortly at the front of the
25.
Again, second behind.
Cadence up.
Pietowski, the also caught up the likes of Schumacher, Polank, and some of the other early breakaway riders. They've been starting to kind of skirmish around. Really. Still 3 minutes
Gonna stand up for this.
to what's being described as the blue jersey match. That is referring to Astana. I can tell you, not just Astana on the front now, we've also got Trek Factory Racing. They've joined the chase behind this couple of groups that we have at the front of the race. I'm not sure exactly who they're going to be working for today, Trek Factory Racing. Probably Balcom Mollema, I would imagine, is their outright leader, but they've got lots of Frank Schleck and Julian Arredondo as well, the Colombian rider, who are also not too much in the way of slapdages when it comes to time.
Do you know, Frank Schleck, when he came and took a stage on the Vuelta, I almost felt myself, I was surprised at my own pleasure at seeing him go so well. There's such great prospect both Frank and Andy. You know, Andy has stepped off the bike, he's got himself a bicycle shop these days, which he runs quite an enormous one apparently.
I did momentarily
So wish him the best.
go up to the 28 there.
There's been a few lists.
Back up to 25 now.
Time that he spent in the pro peloton.
Now down to 23.
The clouds seem to have cleared, and it's always nice to see a rider battling. Let's just say Frank Schleck is one of the most tested riders out there. It's delighted.
Yeah, it certainly looks like his career was kind of fading actually, didn't it? He was on his way to a fairly quiet retirement.
Hello. Well, you talk about the blue group. Right now, they are imposing themselves on track. Why not? They've got Frank Schleck. Arredondo. How many times has he disappointed? Well, at least he can take some climbs, I guess. He's a good man to have up towards the floor. Lampre getting
Looks like we lost a group member.
through. Risi, Jurasek, Kosherboy, and they've got Jan Polanco, of course, further up the road, which gives them a bit of an excuse. And there you go. It's been a muddy old today, and that is just cleaning the valve, by the way, on the bidon. The last thing you want is to squirt a bit of farmyard juice there.
Behind the meter, they've been able to just sit nice and easy behind the Astana squad. And I know that Movistar are also thinking today, not just of trying to take the win on the day with their team leader Valverde, but also of the overall classification of the World Tour. They're leading that at the moment, but only by a few points. I think it's just over 50 points. Back with J-Rod, Burrito, Rocky Rodriguez, guy with many names.
No, that's one of the worst. Anyway, yes, J-Rod, isn't it? Some of those, I believe that's a legend that you can basically read and inspire yourself. I'm not suggesting that they've got any chance of taking any of that in. Just look at them. Absolutely not. Right back, and we know why.
Yeah, Braden, and the last of things that we've seen in Giro d'Italia is there. The special gears, they really are at a cooling pace, and you'll notice it actually when some of the spectators probably run alongside the riders. They're actually having to walk, which is what they used to do next week.
Enrico Barbin, it's just about to be caught. But it's going to have to be down to Nibali himself, and frankly, I think he needs a bit more assistance if he's going to make it all the way in the dry. He'd have preferred terrible weather conditions. I've seen Nibali function brilliantly, even in blizzard conditions. He's a great descender as well, but the advantage dissipates, to be honest, and he's got quicker men ahead of him, and he does, then he might well be in bother a little bit later on. This is turning into a very, very decent group. Otto Jumbo, of course, has been pushing on with Jesse Perry's number 2 or 3. His teammate, who's in the break van Finland, has just been absorbed, and he's going to try and stay with
Seems to have lost everybody.
descent. Again, almost as technical as the, you can see, you can imagine going back down the other way, and here they come. Jesse, hoping into Slacter as well. Have to be a very, very faithful.
So cycling through the Mersey Tunnel.
Doing a group of 2, 3, or alone. You want to try and stay in that group of 6. That group behind looks like that very quickly indeed as well. Just 2 guys left behind on the front for Astana. Also, who was with Wellens and the other riders in between, has been
just slightly disengaged. Tom Yelter sadly for him. And they'll just go over the crest in just a few moments' time. It does flatten out, albeit very slightly towards the point right now. Right to my friend from Fora, but clearly he is bringing it into here. Look at the countdown down. That's almost it's an altitude. Not what you want to see.
2 kilometres at that gradient.
It's hit us
Forever. I mean, it really is excruciating, to be honest, for what's around about 8 minutes. But now, it is starting to
52, 23.
You take, I guess, an incline such as this, at whatever tempo you can possibly manage. I don't think they're going to try and get an escape away. You never know. It is quite technical on this downhill. They've then got 15 kilometres.
Yourself a low cadence, high torque, push.
Down to just 8 riders already. 50 Ks to go. Started there with
and then drop back to 23. Down to 25. Just give ourselves a little bit of recovery without the group getting too far ahead.
So clearly somewhere along
5.5 Ks to go.
In fact, he's got a couple of motorcycles within the gap. Then comes Jessink, a little bit further back. Tom Yelter just making a recovery. It's a very brave push by these guys with 50.5 kilometres to go. Over the top of the riders, they will head down the mountain. And then, of course, the cars will come in, back and into support. In fact, I'm just saying that. It looks like all of a sudden revealed from the trees. Astana here, and ominously, Vincenzo Nibali, who's in fighting.
What you need to ask yourself now is how strong are these other 3 riders for an end of ride sprint?
It was much bigger a couple of years ago. He's 3 rides from the starter, including Vincenzo Nibali. Also Esteban Chavez, Thibaut Pinot, Essing and Slagter, who've just been caught. Danny Moreno, finally Alejandro Valverde. Warren Barguil finds Shimano and the rest of the group here behind, including there one of the Yates brothers, Sergio, now Savino.
Attack.
Being dropped here already.
Yeah, very much so. If you're up towards the 4, then you've done a terrific job, even at this point, quite frankly. So, battle on. First chase in the group, listed at 10 seconds. You don't read too much into that, because there are riders just about everywhere, and Micah suddenly finds himself he always looks reasonably fresh when he's going to finally impose himself. Dan's descent then of the big test of today. They've dealt with the Muro, and now it's reach out for to say to Valens, well, that didn't work. What on earth are we going to do now?
Well, they put a lot of energy into this, so I guess they're going to have to try and push on, use their descending skill. It's quick. Oh, it was the motorbike camera that I think they were shaking their heads at. It was very close indeed.
We get up to the 4, and I guess Kwiatkowski and Valens, Edith Quickstep and Lotto Soudal, their team's primary amongst those that want to get going. From how they started.
Well, that's what I did want to happen.
Two teams will want to get a car in the gap, essentially. How many riders will they be prepared to accept as part of a group? Bear in mind, we've got 15 kilometres of flat racing after post-descent. They're on a little step at the moment. There's about 13 k's more to go. About 11 kilometres to go before they hit the 15-kilometre flat section and a more beautiful part of the world that we've now pushed to find. These guys are pushing on at the moment, and it is for glory. Will they make it?
It's back to Rui Costa, the world champion, current Portuguese champion, and Visconti on Movistar, his hand rider. Behind them, another group with the likes of Maxime Bouet and Vasil Kirienka, and then at 1 minute and 45 from our duo at the front, we are being told there is a bunch. Don't know exactly who is there, but pretty Flowers. 38.6, in fact, famous for Flowers, this part of the world. They hold a flower festival.
Now it's time to fuel up.
They do so in San Remo, which of course also forms part of one of the monuments, the Milan San Remo. So, yeah, the floor of the festival is actually, at least the ceremony at the end, down, lips down, interviews our winners. Any thoughts as to whether it's going to come from this group?
I think it will do. I mean, you certainly can't discount the Wellens riders with an enormous pedigree. Kwiatkowski, as I said, slightly more so than Wellens at this point in time. They're about to go the world
Championship 52.25.
Wellens, though, winner 2 years in a row of the Eneco Tour. One was away on the Queen
Just
stage.
to give my legs some recovery.
Belgium. And they're strong on the flat as well as on the bike, so that's going to be crucial for them as they come up this 15-kilometre flat section to the last 2 climbs. But you know, if there was one less rider from Astana working on the front, I'd give them much more of a chance.
Back down now to the
Landa and Rossa, who are quite great form at the moment, still working, doing good tempo on the front. I think it's going to be difficult for the 2 out front now.
Right hand man, I think you might say, from Ethics Quickstep sort of embedded within this group. In fact, it was Ethics that really took on the main push, wasn't it?
Yeah, as soon as we came on air, a split in the field on the descent was revealed.
So the idea now,
it was
2.5 k's to go.
We've been riding on the front of that, forced that breakaway. Yeah, please your bearing.
So
With the spot,
the group behind us won't catch us.
Or how far behind the group is your bearing at the moment? What's at the back of the bike?
It is. Motorcycle helmet. Not even sure if it's legal. Is this going to be a lone attack? No, Kwiatkowski just gets it on his back wheel at last, he says. Some effort being put in by Valens, who he guided all the way down that descent.
Yeah, Kwiatkowski took the impetus
Who's got behind us?
the long
Julian.
descent, which they
Come on, Julian. Speed up, please.
36 kilometres to go. The climb of Civiglio with 21.7 kilometres remaining.
As you can see, the shadows are getting much longer. These guys could be the ultimate shadow they cast on
Drop back a little bit
by the end of today. They're rolling well together at the moment, but we're still waiting and in splits along
Right.
the way. So
This is it, make or break. 3, 2, 1.
Well, I can tell you he's got teammate who has managed to latch onto the back of this group now against sprints. Around about 25 riders. He was actually somebody who was not even considered by those who set the odds in this kind of event, fortunately, for the time being.
Good, they caught up with me.
Their advantage is, well, actually, it's holding reasonably steady as they push on.
Yeah, we haven't had the updates from the 36 seconds, which will lead to a few minutes to go. Something we haven't really seen much of today. I don't think he's in the group that's on the screens here right now. Managed to latch onto the group, having been part of that kind of good which contained Wellens and Kwiatkowski. Timo Pino there as well.
It's been a tough day though for everybody. 40 kilometres left on what is for many their last race of the season.
Yeah, it is for most, I think. We have got a pretty good field coming up in that Abu Dhabi tour.
Philippe Gilbert clearly is not happy that he appears to have missed what could turn out to be a major move. He knows it and he's battling against the cars at the moment. There we are, Ethics Quickstep. So they've got their riders further up the way.
Never quite see him in the same sort of form as he did a few years ago. Now, 1:06.8, I think, is the ride.
Starting to look like a difficult task, and Philippe Gilbert
Oh,
land on in the chases because they know this means an awful lot to him this race. Meanwhile, out front, you've got two riders who now look like
in that final
invigorated
sprint,
in sight of those who are chasing on, and it's a
timed
big
perfectly.
push at the moment by Astana. They're looking after Nibali. Diego Rosa and Michael Landa also have Landa lead. Who knows what might develop, and here we are as we look back. Simon Yates is with Chavez from Orica Green Edge just behind the
Okay, so it's a good job that I
Astana
cancelled my attack
has been doing
at about 2k mark.
his teammate Diego Rosa, and it's all for Vincenzo Nibali. This is playing into Nibali's hands at the moment. He's
So
an
its
angry
purpose
frankly, on occasion,
was to
whenever he does suffer
gain an
stress,
advantage
it works very well for him. He's
from one
able
person
to
to the back of the
use
group.
his disquiet Tour de France run into
think,
Sheffield, of
final
course,
sprints.
when he was being criticised
I
by
think
his own
everybody
team.
waiting for the last minute.
So the climbs are beckoning, and
So I
the
did want to
next
stop the
is
sprints
close at
at
hand.
400 metres,
Before Kwiatkowski and Wellens will
but I
hit the
had to stop
penultimate
myself
climb of the day, the Civilia. This
because
is
I
where
knew
we
the group would
expect
be
big
quite strong
fireworks in this edition.
and they could easily
They will
work
have
together.
225
Catch me with,
kilometres
let's say,
to
100
legs
metres to
by the
go.
time they get to this
So I
point.
had
This is
to
where we
leave it
expect
for the
to see
final possible moment.
them make their move. They're going to have a hat as they hit this climb.
Towards the side, it's often a precursor to
The moment I saw
an
who
attack.
the rider
Right
was
now,
stood
it's
up,
Kwiatkowski who's gone off by himself. Bellens has
Right,
decided
oh,
that he's
remember
going
on
to
there
bet
is their
himself,
photo shoot.
just a little bit. If the
In the
cameras have
yellow,
missed that,
don't remember anyone else.
but
I wasn't paying
look at
attention.
the wrestling that's going on behind. It looks like Bellens is there and going backwards. He is indeed. There you are, graphically declared.
Yeah, as soon as
the
that
man who's
one
out
rider
front.
stood up,
Here
about
comes
200
Nibali, Chavez
metres or
on
so,
his
250
wheel,
metres.
and likewise a whole.
I need to stop my attack then on my final sprint, and then
Form over the last couple of weeks. Simon Yates just started
plus a
to
few
suffer
seconds
as
into
well.
this,
Gap opening up between he and
no,
Barguil, and
I
then
might have missed out on the
Barguil up to
opportunity.
that he's on fantastic form himself.
Post sprint, that
Won
was
a
only
one-day
about
race
12 watts a
just
kilo,
few days
so
ago in front of some very good riders
pretty like low
indeed.
level
Chetler Neely starting
empty
to
sprints.
puff a little bit behind. How good is he feeling? You have to say that he must be feeling strong. He
Well, that
must
had
be
been
feeling confident.
quite a high intensity race.
Entire day, effectively, as he has
So
done.
much shorter than
Surely only a matter of time before he makes his
planned.
move.
Well, they're
Easy
going
recovery,
backwards as
right?
well, and when you see that happening, you realise it's been a long season. And you also realise just how punishing the pace is out front that's being set at the moment. So up there as well.
Two
this is
races
all great news
Tuesday.
for those of you who like to see a little bit of change in the ranks up front. But Chavez, of course,
Assuming I have a race tomorrow as well.
Valverde's always struggled.
Tomorrow
when it's,
somewhere in France, but I can't remember where. But we'll take a look in a minute when I get off this damn bike.
Great run of form at the top of the season.
My legs don't seize up.
Well, he's going. It looks like he's now chosen this moment to try and make his move, and the only man who can respond is Esteban Chavez, the youngster from Colombia, Oregon Green Edge. He doesn't want to push on too long if he's not on his own, but that means that two more riders coming up from behind. Danny Moreno from Katusha, who would dearly love to win this race today in the absence of his teammate Joaquin Rodriguez, Thibaut Pinot.
Chavez looks fantastic. He's sprightly. He's the biggest smiler out there, as I'm sure you know. And look at everyone looking around. Just Thibaut Pinot, Nibali, clearly was suffering at that moment, and maybe it's going to be left to others who've had some sparkling results of late.
It's time for him to make a surprise move. That's exactly what he's done. Sergio Henao is the rider there from Team Sky, trying to make his way up to the Astana rider.
They are starting to look at each other. I don't know whether Nibali's going to regather himself, but he's clearly not feeling comfortable. Sends out two elbows. I mean, I really do want you to take over. There's nobody here for that, I'm afraid, but 14% maximum through the hairpins, that's where you get your steepest kilometres to go, so they've still got 2Ks remaining.
The microphone.
Head down and then take on our final test of that.
Well, here comes Brandier then from Ethics Quickstep. They're having a pretty good day. They've been a part of that counter-attack which we saw as soon as our programme started today. So it's the slightly lower-end riders of this race select group who are showing their faces now and trying to determine when they're going to make their move. Beginning to get very cagey here at the moment.
It is starting to get cagey.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
At the moment, out of the saddle, Chavez looks very sprightly and sort of staying in touch whenever questions are asked of the diminutive Colombian who races for Orica Green Edge. Very clubby. But it's Rosa at the moment. What an amazing 7 days he will have had if he delivers the
other team almost. He'd be the very of his time working for others, and that's always going to be the case if your teammates with the likes of Aru and Vincenzo Nibali. Would have been nice to see him as an almost protected.
That's the Sungle there, not somebody's fingerprints on the
seen
lens.
Plenty suffering down there, and Sergio now it's his turn right now. Up Powell's looked a bit second-hand not that long ago, and Nibali pushes on.
Like he has quite got the strength to be able to get rid of the riders who are still left on our screens right now, and the important one to get rid of really is Alejandro Valverde. He's the man who can finish off. Other climbers, other riders who are capable of Grand Tour podiums just don't generally have. It'd be a big risk if you took that man to the finish line. It's incredible that he's here at all, really.
Rosa. And it's Valverde that just comes up to the fore, and he wanted to have a good look.
Well done. Okay, so let's have a look at events.
And this is serious. Away he goes up by the barriers, and it's Rosa that tree line here, but Pinot is having a proper roll of the dice. Chavez not tempted this time by. There is.
Okay, so we'll take a quick look and see what we have to do tomorrow.
Well, once again, the big favourites behind now starting to look at each other. How much has Vincenzo Nibali got left in the tank? He can now start
so
to
what
follow
we've got tomorrow.
the likes of Valverde, likes of Danny
So it's
Moreno.
proper TT race tomorrow, so I will change my bike now.
16.6 is where
in fact, let's just double check first of all.
They'll be back up, well, they'll be into Como and then back up on the final loop of the day and the final climb.
And sometimes going on the attack is part of that bluff. Pinot tries to bridge over to them and does. With Rosa,
let's take a quick check.
This is real find out time to see who's left. And quite frankly, it may well be a solo.
See what we have 5%. Average 1%, 0%. Okay, so tomorrow then I will change my bike to the lightweight, let's see, Speed Concepts.
Chavez playing a widely game. In fact, he didn't believed that that break would go for it. Nibali goes, and this is full on right now against the wall.
But then, because I've got a slightly heavier bike, I'm going to change my wheels to the
now he's got a bit long descent as soon as he goes over the crest of this, and he'll be there in 1k's time. This is the kick that he suddenly made. Had a look, Valverde couldn't respond, and Nibali just got this line round this curve, almost on the white line, which is to warn traffic they're getting almost.
In fact, let's just check on the movie analyzer.
That's how close he was to the wall, and he hugs it still, and Pino stays with him.
See if that's the best
It's Chavez that's trying to come
option.
over.
So
That little grouping also containing Valverde, and now what looked like pain looks like determination on the face of Nibali. He's got to get to the top. He'll be there in about 800 metres time. Then he could descend and take on the final test today. He had to go long. He could not bring Valverde all the way.
Is not something that you come even close to many times in your career. In fact, you could be a million miles away from it if it was my career. But you don't want to see it slip up the road on the descent, and that's going to be, as I said, very frustrating for Thibaut Pinot. They need to get their act together as soon as they possibly can. But they've also got to contend with Rosser, who's going to get in the way as much as he possibly can without aggravating them too much.
Well, I wonder whether the likes of Valverde are just thinking about the team classification. 25 seconds.
So the K-Dex
Nibali has got a cushion. Now he's got to almost
it's going to be better, so I'll change that again.
Okay. It maxes at 10%, by the way, and suddenly alarm bells going off. It's Moreno that's chasing on.
So
and, Nibali
according to
like
this, tomorrow,
here. He's realizing that this could be a monument that he adds to his
stay at, say, 200
what
watts
a
per
great Palmares
second.
it is. 9.5 kilometres to go. Get your head down and get on with it. He knows that. He's an amazing battler, and that descent was straight out of the textbook of what you've got to do when a situation presents itself to you.
Now,
and Valverde is not to be drawn
and
into this
the
pursuit
next
at the moment.
best, which is the same wheels and my usual tarmac SLEs, there is a 10-second difference in time.
I don't know whether they think that Nibali's going to cook himself out
and if I stay on the track speed concept, I use the previous wheels. There is a 16-second difference.
Transfer of energy coming from Valverde, who offers up a smile and says, "No, we're going to be team champions as far as the UCI ranking is concerned."
What I don't really get caught out on though is the climb itself. So let me just go back to here. And let me just take a quick look at this ride, and if we watch, it'll give me an idea of what to expect. It's okay using the analyzer, but when you get like short steep climbs, you can burn out from.
He's got 400 metres now, Nibali, until he reaches that final test of the day. 3.7 kilometres, sorry, 2.7 kilometres is the length of this final
let's just see
7.2%. But with
what
that
this
kind of
goes
cushion
to.
and that kind of pedigree, it's hard to see this man being caught.
I think pedigree is the word, and this man is a purebred battler.
Right, yeah, okay, so yeah, I'm going to go back to the 6-spoke
skirmish, I guess you might say, of what has been
turbo
an illustrious career. Plenty more of it still to come. He was wounded after.
It's going to make more sense because very, very slight reduction on the flats, but it'll help on the climbs.
And there is Valverde. He's not
there's lots of undulation rather than just no flat all the way, so that's going to be a better choice for me tomorrow.
They're all looking at each other still. Chavez wondering whether he could put enough into this and still bring himself some sort of result.
Go back to events and just see if anybody is still on here.
And now it is that's joined the fun. And is this fun though? That's the question. 7.5 kilometres to go. 41 seconds. Nibali, I believe, has done this. This climb is not going to sap his strength and not his determination. Yeah. You should see the crowd at the finish line. Lots and lots of very pensive faces. They are going to be roaring their hearts out, to be honest, one way or another, I guess you might say. once he takes the peak, and it comes with 5.3 to go, so he's got just over 2Ks remaining before he can sail this one home. If he has an advantage of 41 seconds, there's no way they're going to catch him on the descent.
Well, here goes Chavez, but you have to say 41 seconds, nigh on impossible to match or to go across.
Didn't want to do that.
Diego Rossi doing an incredible job of just neutralising anything that's coming from behind. Nieva tries to go on the right-hand side of the road. He's quickly followed by Thibaut Pinot, but again, Rossi just straight onto the back of these riders. He's on an incredible day as well, Diego Rossi.
Keep pushing to the end. Don't give up. Don't quit.
And the group of favourites who
No time to
We've got
coast.
the likes of Robert Hessink there just behind, probably with Wout Poels, the Dutch rider from Team Sky.
That'll be me
but it's all
done.
about this man today,
With
Vincenzo
this
Nibali.
event
Winner
over.
of the Italian Championships for the second year in succession. Winner just last week of another couple of races. Looks like he's going to take this one as well.
Well, who's going to be nearest man to him? Thibaut Pinot.